You know Michael Jordan as the GOAT, the man who took flight, who turned the NBA into a global force, who broke hearts and ankles all across the league. But behind the championships, the iconic dunks, and a billion-dollar shoe empire is a treasure trove of insane stories. This isn't just a basketball documentary. This is 1 hour of crazy Michael Jordan lore. Michael Jeffrey Jordan was born on February 17th, 1963, in Brooklyn, New York. But make no mistake, the legend of MJ really began in Wilmington, North Carolina. His family moved there when he was just a toddler, and it was in that small southern town that a skinny, competitive kid started crafting a myth that would later define sports history. His father, James Jordan, was a strict but loving man who worked on mechanical projects with Mike in the garage. His mother, Dolores, was just as critical, a fierce force who kept Michael grounded, focused, and, most of all, disciplined. Here's something most people don't know. Jordan was cut from his high school varsity basketball team as a sophomore. But this wasn't the story of a kid who got cut and suddenly became great. No, this was the beginning of MJ's personal revenge saga. He didn't just want to make the team next year. He wanted to destroy everyone who doubted him. He trained relentlessly. He grew from 5 feet 10 inches to 6 feet 3 inches that very summer. He came back with a fire so intense that his coach later said, "That wasn't just hunger. That was anger with a purpose." Michael earned a scholarship to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and that's where he began turning potential into reality. Coach Dean Smith, known for his strict, team-first system, recognized Jordan's raw talent but insisted on molding him with patience. MJ wasn't handed the keys. He earned them. One of the first signs of MJ's killer instinct came during the 1982 NCAA championship game. UNC versus Georgetown. Clock ticking down. Dean Smith calls a play. Not for senior James Worthy, not for future NBA star Sam Perkins, but for a freshman named Michael Jordan. Jordan hits the game-winning jumper from the left wing. Just like that, a national title and a national spotlight. But here's the crazy part. That shot almost didn't happen. In practice leading up to the game, MJ couldn't hit that jumper. Assistant coaches actually considered having another player take the final shot, but MJ worked on that exact look over and over again. The confidence Dean Smith had to draw up the play for a freshman was shocking, but it was earned. Here's a wild twist. Michael didn't always dream of being a basketball player. In fact, when he was younger, he wanted to be a professional baseball player. His dad was a massive baseball fan, and Michael played both sports seriously in high school. He even pitched and played outfield. People close to him say his natural coordination and timing would have made him an MLB player if he had chosen that path. He played varsity baseball as a junior and senior, and scouts noticed him, but basketball's gravitational pull was too strong. Still, that early love for baseball didn't disappear. More on that later. Hint, hint, White Sox, black hats, and a minor league detour. Let's talk about Jordan's trash talk. It's legendary, but it didn't start in the NBA. Even as a teenager, MJ would mentally dismantle his opponents. Coaches at UNC remembered how he would target the star players in practice and go at them with no hesitation. There's one story where MJ told a senior, "I'm going to take your spot." The upperclassman laughed. The next scrimmage, Jordan dropped 25 on him, talked the entire time, and walked off saying, "Told you." The guy ended up getting benched. Jordan wasn't just competitive. He was obsessed. Obsessed with beating you, specifically you, if you were in front of him. And the more confident you were, the harder he came for you. Imagine being so good that your very presence makes other NBA players jealous before you played a single game. That was Michael Jordan in 1984. The 1984 NBA draft is now one of the most infamous drafts in sports history. Not because teams got it right, but because two teams got it so wrong. The Houston Rockets took Hakeem Olajuwon at number 1. Okay, that's fair. Hakeem was a monster. But the Portland Trail Blazers, oh man. They had Clyde Drexler already, so they decided they didn't need another guard. Instead, they drafted Sam Bowie, a 7-footer with injury history. That left the Chicago Bulls at number 3, and the rest is history. But did you know, the Bulls front office didn't even want Jordan? General manager Rod Thorne admitted later they wanted a center and were hesitant until Jordan dominated workouts so completely they couldn't justify passing him up. Good call, Rod. From day one, Jordan walked into the Bulls' locker room and instantly disrupted the vibe. And not in a good way, at first. Here's a true, crazy piece of lore. Jordan called his teammates' hotel rooms before games and found them partying, drinking, and doing drugs. He walked in on one of these hotel suites and saw women, weed, lines of coke, and bounced. Later, he referred to the team as the traveling cocaine circus. But instead of joining them, he started lifting weights, training by himself, and eventually dominating them so hard in practice that they had to catch up to him. That wasn't normal back then. Rookies weren't supposed to alpha their vets. He won Rookie of the Year in 1985, averaging 28.2 points per game. That's insane by today's standards, and even more insane in the slower, more physical 1980s NBA. He was so good, Magic Johnson said, there's a new sheriff in town, just months into MJ's rookie season. This next part? Straight sneaker lore. Nike was struggling in 1984. They were a running shoe company, big in track, not basketball. They offered Michael Jordan $250,000 to start his own line. At the time, that was an unheard of sum for a rookie. Jordan? He didn't even want Nike. He wanted Adidas. And Adidas wanted him. But their German HQ said they couldn't make it work for a guard. So Nike pitched him hard, with a custom video, a revolutionary marketing plan, and one condition. We'll build the entire brand around you. His agent told him, this is going to change sports. It did. The first Air Jordan was banned by the NBA for violating uniform policy. Nike loved it. They paid the fines and used it to market the shoes. Sales projections were $3 million in year one. They made $126 million in 12 months. In his second season, 1985 to 86, Jordan fractured his foot just 3 games in. Doctors told him to sit out the season. Jordan? Nah. He secretly practiced on campus at UNC and pushed the Bulls to let him return, even if it meant risking his career. Here's the lore. Bulls management tried to stop him, so Jordan got spiteful. He publicly trashed the front office. He told reporters, if there's a 10% chance I could die playing, I still want to play. I love the game that much. He played 14 minutes per game under a strict limit until the playoffs. April 20th, 1986. Game 2 versus the Boston Celtics in Boston Garden. Larry Bird's Celtics, the best team in the league. Jordan had only played 18 games since returning from injury. He dropped 63 points in double overtime, still the most ever scored in an NBA playoff game. Larry Bird's quote after the game, that wasn't Michael Jordan. That was God disguised as Michael Jordan. And the kicker? The Bulls still lost the game. But a new rule had been written. Michael Jordan was the future. As Jordan's superstardom grew, so did the stories. The competitiveness? It was starting to get scary. Teammates said he'd bet on anything, from card games to rock, paper, scissors. One Bulls staffer said MJ once bet $100 that his luggage would come off the carousel first at the airport. And when it didn't, he accused the airline of a setup. This was just the beginning. The smile on the commercials? A cover. The real MJ was developing into something much deeper, much darker, and much more obsessed with winning than anyone had ever seen. By the late 80s, Michael Jordan was putting up numbers the league had never seen before. But no matter how many times he flew, he kept crashing into one team, the Detroit Pistons. From 1987 to 1990, Michael Jordan led the league in scoring every single year, averaging over 35 points per game in 87, 88 alone. And he wasn't just scoring. He won Defensive Player of the Year that same season. That's right. He was the best scorer and best defender in the NBA in 1 year. But despite that dominance, the Bulls kept running into a brick wall, a gang of thugs known as the Bad Boy Pistons. Led by Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman, and Rick Mahorn, Detroit didn't care about highlight reels. They played basketball like it was prison yard politics, violent, psychological, personal. And Jordan? He was public enemy number one. You've heard of the Jordan rules. But this wasn't a nickname. This was a literal playbook, a strategy the Pistons developed specifically to destroy MJ. Here's how it worked. Force him left. Double-team him immediately if he drove. Foul him. Hard. Every time, Rodman later admitted. The goal was to physically wear him down, knock him to the ground, hit him every time he went to the rim. Test his will. This wasn't basketball, it was sanctioned assault. And the crazy part? It worked. The Bulls lost to the Pistons 3 straight years in the playoffs. 1988, 1989, and 1990. Each time, it got uglier. MJ would drop 40, sometimes 50, but the Pistons would walk away with the series. They had depth. They had defense. And most of all, they had hate. Some of the dirtiest plays in NBA history happened during these battles. Clotheslines, shoves in midair, lame beer slamming MJ to the floor on layups. And Jordan? He got up every single time. There's a famous moment in the 1989 Eastern Conference Finals. MJ drives. Rodman meets him in midair with a body check that would get you ejected today. Jordan crashes, rolls, gets up, teeth clenched. He doesn't complain, doesn't flinch. He just scores on the next play. The mental war was just as savage. Isaiah Thomas, also a Chicago native, refused to show MJ any respect. There were rumors Isaiah blocked Jordan from the 1992 Dream Team. More on that later. And here's the real kicker. MJ hated them so much, he admitted later that every offseason during those years was spent thinking about how to kill the Pistons. After the 1990 loss, something changed. Jordan had scored, he had competed, he had soared, and it wasn't enough. So he made a decision that would change everything. He hit the weight room. Up to that point, MJ avoided lifting too much. He believed muscle would slow him down. But in the summer of 1990, he told trainer Tim Grover, "I'm tired of getting knocked around. Let's get strong." Jordan went from 195 to 215 pounds of lean muscle. His vertical didn't drop. His speed didn't suffer. But now he could hit back. That season, he didn't just lead the league in scoring again. He turned the Bulls into a machine. They won 61 games, swept through the playoffs, and when they saw the Pistons in the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals, the Bulls didn't just beat the Pistons. They humiliated them. For games to 0. A clean sweep. And what did Detroit do? Did they shake hands? Show sportsmanship? Nope. With time still on the clock in Game 4, Isaiah Thomas led the Pistons off the court before the buzzer. No handshake, no words, just straight-up disrespect. Jordan was livid. Years later, he said, "You can't convince me he wasn't in a asterisk hole. This was more than basketball. This was warfare." And Jordan had finally won. That 1991 win wasn't just a series victory. It was the final test. The Pistons had turned Michael Jordan from a scoring machine into a champion in the making. He learned how to lead, how to elevate his team, and most of all, how to respond to hate with work. Rodman would later say, "Jordan hated us, but we made him the GOAT." It took 7 brutal years. Blood, sweat, and bad boys. But finally, in 1991, Michael Jordan made it to the NBA Finals. And waiting for him there, Showtime itself, the Los Angeles Lakers, Magic Johnson, 5-time champions, the team of the 1980s. The perfect foil for a man stepping into greatness. This wasn't just East versus West. This was a passing of the torch. And in Game 1, Jordan and the Bulls lost. But after that, it was curtains for Hollywood. Jordan averaged 31.2 points, 11.4 assists, and 6.6 rebounds. He dominated every facet of the series. And in Game 2, he pulled off one of the most iconic plays in NBA history, the midair hand switch. He drove the lane, went up with his right, saw Sam Perkins coming, switched hands midair, and laid it in with his left, purely for style. That wasn't necessary. That was art. The Bulls won 4 straight games, and MJ finally got his first ring. The image of him clutching the trophy, crying in the locker room, remains one of the most powerful moments in sports history. With the championship came global superstardom. MJ wasn't just a basketball player anymore. He was becoming a symbol. Nike capitalized like no brand ever had. They partnered with Spike Lee for the iconic It's got to be the shoes ads. The Air Jordan line exploded. Sales weren't just massive in America. They were crushing it in Asia, Europe, even the Middle East. Jordan was turning the NBA into a worldwide brand. David Stern, the NBA commissioner, once said, "We didn't grow the NBA globally. Michael Jordan did." And Jordan? He was now worth tens of millions. He starred in commercials for Gatorade, McDonald's, Hanes. You name it. The Be Like Mike campaign became a movement. Here's a wild stat. By 1992, Jordan's name recognition was higher than the President of the United States in international polling. 1992 Finals, Bulls versus Trail Blazers. Clyde Drexler was considered Jordan's rival, another athletic, high-scoring guard. The media hyped it up. Jordan took it personally. Game 1. Jordan hits 6 threes in the first half. After the 6th, he turns to the broadcast table and gives that iconic shrug, like I don't even know what's happening. That moment became a meme before memes existed. The Bulls beat Portland in 6 games, giving MJ his second ring. But what came after that? It might be the most important moment in basketball history. Barcelona, the Olympics. For the first time ever, NBA players were allowed to represent Team USA. The result? The most dominant team in sports history, the Dream Team. Jordan, Magic, Bird, Barkley, Ewing, Malone, Pippen. The list goes on. And even on that team of legends, Jordan was the alpha. Here's the lore. In practices, Jordan was so competitive that the scrimmages became more intense than the actual Olympic Games. One famous practice, nicknamed the greatest game nobody ever saw, featured Jordan's squad versus Magic's. Trash talk, fouls, elbows. Jordan dominated the second half, and Magic said, "There's a new sheriff in town." The Dream Team won every game by at least 30 points. They made the world fall in love with basketball. And MJ, he became a global god. Back home, the Bulls went for the three-peat in 1993. But the season wasn't easy. Jordan was burned out. His gambling habits had become public. He was on edge with the media. And then the unthinkable. In July 1993, his father, James Jordan, was murdered in North Carolina. 2 teenagers shot him during a robbery and dumped his body in a swamp. It devastated Michael. He'd always said his dad was his best friend, his protector, the man who taught him the game. The 1993 Finals, Bulls versus Suns, was a war. Charles Barkley was MVP that year, and he wanted it bad. But MJ? He averaged 41.0 points per game in the series. Still a finals record. Game 6. John Paxson hits the game-winning 3. Bulls win their 3rd straight title. But the joy, it was gone. In October 1993, Michael Jordan retired from basketball. At his press conference, he said, "I've reached the pinnacle. I just don't have anything else to prove." The world was stunned. 3 rings, global domination, and then gone. Just like that. But Jordan's story doesn't end there. In fact, it's about to get a whole lot crazier. Because next, he trades in his Jordans for cleats. Yeah, baseball. For real. The greatest player in the world retired in his prime. But why? Was it burnout? Was it grief? Or was it something deeper? October 6th, 1993. Michael Jordan walks away from basketball at 30 years old. Still healthy. Still dominant. Still the best player in the league. His official reason? He'd lost the love for the game, and after the murder of his father, he wanted to step away. But fans and media weren't buying it. Why give up the throne when you're still the king? Rumors exploded. Some said it was a secret NBA suspension for gambling, quietly negotiated behind closed doors. Others speculated he had grown disgusted with the media, who had swarmed him with allegations about his off-court vices. Whatever the truth was, one thing was certain. Jordan was done with basketball. Then things got even weirder. In February 1994, Jordan signed a minor league contract with the Chicago White Sox, the MLB team owned by Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf. The same week he retired from basketball, he quietly started training for baseball. Why? It wasn't random. MJ had always loved baseball. It was his father's favorite sport. They played catch in the backyard. MJ said it was their true bond. And with his father gone, this felt like a tribute. But let's be clear. This wasn't a publicity stunt. Jordan trained like a madman. He woke up at 5 a.m., took extra batting practice, traveled on buses, lived the full minor league grind. He joined the Birmingham Barons, a double-A team. And the stat line? Well, it was rough. Batting average, .202. Strikeouts, 114. Errors in the outfield, 11. But here's the wild part. Most MLB scouts said he was improving rapidly. With another season or two, they said he might have made the majors. Sports Illustrated said he embarrassed the game. But real baseball guys, they saw the work. Terry Francona, his manager in Birmingham, who later won 2 World Series, said, with 1,500 at-bats, he could have played in the big leagues. Even during baseball, MJ couldn't escape his NBA past. People kept asking, was this a cover-up for a secret suspension? Let's break it down. Jordan was known to bet tens of thousands on golf. He was seen in Atlantic City the night before playoff games. A $57,000 gambling check to a convicted drug dealer named James Slim Bowler was made public in 1993. The NBA launched a quiet investigation. So when he suddenly walked away months later, the timing was suspicious. David Stern, then NBA commissioner, always denied a secret suspension. But fans stayed skeptical. And Jordan? He never fully explained it. All he ever said was, I needed a break. I needed peace. The MJ baseball era produced some insane moments. Here are a few. At one point, he had a 13-game hitting streak. He stole 30 bases in a single season, showing his elite athleticism. He signed every autograph, never missed a media session, and was universally loved in the locker room. He rode buses through Alabama and Tennessee like everyone else. He even played in the Arizona Fall League, essentially baseball's version of NBA's Summer League. That's how committed he was. The man was a billionaire icon, slumming it on minor league buses because he wanted to earn it. Then in 1995, something changed. Baseball entered strike. MJ, who refused to cross the picket line, took it as a sign. In March 1995, without any buildup, the Bulls sent out a 2-word press release. I'm back. No press conference. No ad campaign. Use. Every arena sold out. It was like the Messiah had returned. His first game back, March 19th, 1995, against the Indiana Pacers. He looked rusty, but he still dropped 19 points. 5 games later, he dropped 55 points at Madison Square Garden. Message: New York, the Mecca. Jordan was back. MJ walked away from the game at his peak, lived the minor league grind, survived the media storm, then returned with 2 words, I'm back. But could he still win? That's what we'll find out in segment 6, when the Bulls rebuild around him and prepare for the greatest redemption arc in sports history. Michael Jordan was back, but the game had changed. The league was faster, younger, hungrier, and MJ, he wasn't invincible anymore. Jordan's 1995 return was electric, but not perfect. He played just 17 regular season games, looked winded at times, and wore the unfamiliar number 45 instead of 23. And when the playoffs came, disaster. The Bulls faced the Orlando Magic. A young, flashy squad led by Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway. In Game 1, Jordan got stripped by Nick Anderson late in the 4th. After the game, Anderson said, Number 45 doesn't explode like number 23 did. Jordan read that quote and, no joke, came back the next game wearing number 23. Still, it wasn't enough. The Magic beat the Bulls in 6 games. It was Jordan's first playoff loss since 1990. But instead of breaking down, he locked in. That summer, he trained harder than ever before. He didn't just want to return to form. He wanted to bury the league. The Bulls' front office retooled the roster. They brought in Dennis Rodman, the same Rodman who had helped torment Jordan in the Pistons days. It seemed like a wild move, but Rodman was still one of the greatest rebounders alive, and MJ respected his hustle. Now the Bulls had Jordan, the killer, Pippen, the do-it-all lieutenant, Rodman, the chaos engine, plus a cast of elite role players, Kerr, Kukoc, Longley, Harper. Then came the 1995-96 season. The Bulls weren't just good. They were historic. They went 72-10, the best record in NBA history at the time. Jordan won League MVP, All-Star MVP, scoring title, steals leader, first team All-Defense. He dominated every level of the game. The Bulls stormed through the playoffs and reached the finals. In poetic justice, their opponent was the Seattle Supersonics, led by Defensive Player of the Year Gary Payton. MJ cooked them. Chicago went up 3-0 before letting off the gas slightly and closing out in Game 6. And this wasn't just a title. This was the first one without his father. June 16, 1996. Game 6. Father's Day. Jordan wins his 4th NBA title and collapses in the locker room, sobbing on the floor, hugging the game ball. It was the most vulnerable we had ever seen him. His father had been murdered just 3 years earlier. MJ said, "This was for him. I felt like he was with me." It was a full-circle moment. The dream that started with James Jordan in the backyard ended with Michael on top again. Alone this time, but victorious. The 1996-97 season was business as usual. Jordan averaged 29.6 points, won another scoring title, and led the Bulls to 69 wins, just 3 shy of their record the year before. But the finals? That's where the legend gets sick. Literally. Game 5 of the 1997 finals. Bulls versus Utah Jazz. Series tied 2-2. MJ wakes up vomiting, sweating, barely able to stand. Team doctors say it's a stomach virus. Others claim it was food poisoning from a suspicious late-night pizza. 5 guys allegedly delivered it to his hotel. Jordan's trainer, Tim Grover, says something wasn't right. But Jordan refused to sit. He played 44 minutes, dropped 38 points, and led the Bulls to a huge win on the road. The image of Scottie Pippen holding up a limp, drenched Jordan as they walked off the court, is legendary. Jordan said afterward, "It was all will. People call it the flu game." It was really the Jordan game. Pure heart, pure guts, pure mythology. In 2 seasons, Jordan went from being written off to lifting 2 more banners. He had reclaimed the throne, silenced his critics, and immortalized moments that would echo forever. But he wasn't done yet. One more year, one last ring, and the most iconic shot in NBA history. Segment 7 is the last dance. It wasn't injury. It wasn't age. It wasn't the competition. The greatest dynasty in modern sports was about to fall apart from the inside. The 1997-98 season started under a cloud. The Bulls were still champions, still elite, still feared. But behind the scenes? Chaos. GM Jerry Krause was obsessed with rebuilding, even while the team was still winning titles. Phil Jackson, the Zen master coach who molded the team, was told before the season that this would be his last year, no matter what. And Michael Jordan? He made his stance clear. If Phil's not coaching, I'm not playing. The media dubbed it the last dance. Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Phil all knew this was the final chapter. And MJ? He made sure the story would end his way. The 1998 Bulls were older, slower. Pippen missed 35 games with a foot injury. Rodman was partying more than ever. The team chemistry was fragile. But Jordan? He never cracked. He led the league in scoring for the 10th time, at 35 years old. He won his 5th MVP. He played all 82 games. Again, when asked how he kept going, he said, "Because they still can't stop me." Jordan held the team together with sheer force of will. He challenged them, bullied them, pushed them to keep up. That season wasn't fun, it was war. In the playoffs, he went nuclear. The Bulls fought through the East, took down the Pacers in a brutal 7-game series, and reached the finals for the 6th time. Their opponent, the Utah Jazz. Again, Karl Malone, John Stockton, revenge on their minds. The Jazz had home court this time. Game 1, Jazz win. Game 2, Bulls bounce back. Game 3, the most dominant defensive performance in finals history. Bulls win 96-54. A 42-point blowout. By Game 5, the Bulls were up 3-1. But Utah wasn't done. They won Game 5 in Chicago, forcing a Game 6 back in Salt Lake City. Now remember, Pippen's back was wrecked. He could barely walk. And yet, he started the game. MJ knew he'd have to carry the entire load, one last time. Final moments of Game 6. Bulls down 3. Jordan drives. Layup. Down 1. Jazz bring it up. Malone in the post. Jordan sneaks behind, strips the ball. No timeout. No play call. Just destiny. Jordan dribbles up court. 10 seconds. Guarded by Brian Russell. He crosses right, pulls back. Russell stumbles. Jordan rises. Fires. Holds a pose. Swish. Bulls lead by 1. The Jazz miss a desperation shot. Clock hits 0. Jordan ends his Bulls career with a championship-winning shot. 6 rings. 6 finals appearances. 6 finals MVPs. Perfect. Inevitable. Legendary. That final shot is the single most iconic play in NBA history. His follow-through. The frozen crowd. The GOAT finishing the story his way. Jordan walked off the court and into legend. He said later, "If that was the last shot I ever took, I'd be okay with it." It wasn't just a shot. It was the drama behind it. The collapsing dynasty, the tension with management, the sheer weight of everything on MJ's shoulders. And he still delivered. He always did. Days later, the Bulls were dismantled. Phil Jackson left. Scottie Pippen was traded. Rodman was waived. And in January 1999, Michael Jordan officially retired again. This time it felt final. David Stern said, "Michael Jordan transcended the game. He didn't just dominate it, he defined it. And everyone believed it was the end. But was it? 6 championships. A shot for the ages. And the final curtain falls." But coming up in segment 8, the comeback no one wanted, the awkward Wizards years, and why MJ's worst stretch still added to his myth. After the perfect ending, why come back? Why risk the legacy? Why put on a Wizards jersey? In 2000, Jordan bought a stake in the Washington Wizards and joined their front office. He was supposed to be done playing, a retired legend, chilling in a suit, scouting young talent. But that never sat right with him. The itch came back. He was still destroying guys in pickup games. He was still dropping 40 on Wizards players in practice wearing dress shoes. And he still believed, at 38, he could hang with the league's best. So on September 25th, 2001, Jordan officially announced he was coming out of retirement. Again, Michael Jordan was a Wizard. Most people expected a washed-up legend, maybe 10 points a game, some ceremonial fadeaways. Instead, Jordan opened the season with back-to-back 20-plus point games. And on December 29th, 2001, against the Charlotte Hornets, at age 38, Jordan dropped 51 points. He became the oldest player in NBA history to drop 50. And then, 2 days later, he dropped 45. It wasn't just jumpers. He was still bullying younger players, posting them up, talking trash, and calling his shots. He even averaged 6 assists and 5 rebounds a game. This wasn't some bench legend logging legacy minutes. This man was still producing. In his first Wizards season, he averaged 22.9 points per game, more than Paul Pierce, Vince Carter that year, Kobe Bryant his rookie year, and every player on the Wizards roster not named Jordan. But here's where things get deeper. Jordan wasn't invincible anymore. His knees swelled. He missed games. His team was bad. The Wizards missed the playoffs both years. And MJ, he was frustrated, not just because of losing, but because the Wizards didn't care enough. There's a famous story where MJ caught teammates laughing after a loss. So he shut off the locker room TV and told them, "That loss cost me sleep. It should cost you something too." He also famously told rookie Kwame Brown, the number 1 overall pick, that he had small hands and routinely humiliated him in practice. The media crushed Jordan for it, calling him a bully. But MJ saw it differently. Pressure makes diamonds or dust. April 16th, 2003. Michael Jordan plays his final NBA game in Philadelphia. Before tip-off, he's honored by the Sixers. During the game, he scores 15. Then, with 2 minutes left, he checks out for the last time. The crowd gives him a 3-minute standing ovation. Even opposing players, Allen Iverson, Dr. J, Barkley, all pay tribute. Jordan waves, sits on the bench, and it's over. His final season stat line: 20.0 points per game. 37 years old. 82 games played. Still all-star caliber. Still elite. just mortal. And that's what makes it legendary. Most fans brush off the Wizards era. They want the final image of MJ to be the shot in '98. But real ones know the Wizards' run added depth. It made him human. A 38-year-old billionaire icon, grinding on a losing team, still chasing greatness. And maybe that's the most MJ thing of all. Because he didn't come back to pad stats. He came back because he couldn't live without competing. Even when he was hurting. Even when the team was mid. Even when the critics rolled their eyes. He still dropped 40. Still hit game winners. Still gave us those iconic fadeaways. MJ at 80% effort was still better than 90% of the league. He could have left the game as a myth. But he chose to return and prove he was still flesh and blood. The Wizards' years weren't perfect, but they were real. Coming up next, his post-retirement fire, the Hornets' chaos, and MJ's life after the spotlight in Segment 9. After conquering the court, MJ set his sights on a new throne, ownership. In 2006, Jordan became a minority owner of the Charlotte Bobcats, one of the NBA's youngest, weakest franchises. But MJ didn't just want to invest, he wanted control. So in 2010, he bought a majority stake in the team. He became the first former player to own an NBA franchise outright. And here's the lore twist. Jordan bought the team for $275 million and would eventually sell it for over $3 billion. Financially, genius. Basketball-wise, it was rough. In 2012, the Bobcats went 7-59 during the lockout-shortened season. That's the worst win percentage in NBA history, .106. Jordan, the GOAT, was now the owner of the most embarrassing team ever. Fans questioned everything. His draft picks, Kwame Brown flashbacks. His loyalty to former UNC players. His reluctance to hire strong front office help. Charlotte became a basketball purgatory. No stars, no culture, no direction. And Jordan? He just kept going, believing, grinding. In 2014, the team officially changed its name back to the Hornets. Jordan wanted to reclaim Charlotte's basketball roots, to rebuild something real. Even in retirement, Jordan never stopped trash-talking. He was known to challenge players, both young Hornets and NBA stars, to one-on-one games at age 50. He'd still talk trash during team practices. He'd walk in wearing jeans and destroy guys in shooting contests. There are actual stories of MJ beating Malik Monk in free throw bets, talking trash to Kemba Walker after hitting a fadeaway on him at practice, telling rookies, "You couldn't survive my era." And in 2015, he gave his Hall of Fame speech, where instead of just thanking people, he roasted everyone who doubted him. Former coaches, rivals, even the guy who beat him out for his high school varsity team. The message? I'm still keeping score. In 2020, Jordan's Hornets drafted LaMelo Ball, finally landing a potential star. The franchise finally had hope. LaMelo won Rookie of the Year, sold out jerseys, brought flair back to the team. MJ called him a spark we needed. But even with LaMelo, the Hornets never fully broke through. And in 2023, Jordan finally made the call. He sold his majority stake in the Hornets, stepping down from control. It was the end of an era, one filled with struggle, bad lottery luck, and a few glimpses of greatness. But most of all, it was about MJ's refusal to give up on competition. Even when the world told him he'd lost his touch. In retirement, Jordan stayed in the shadows, but never really disappeared. He built a $15 million estate in Florida, owned private golf courses, played 36 holes a day, bet a lot of money on cards, golf, and cigars. He once lost $1.25 million in a single weekend. MJ is always competing, just in quieter arenas. In 2023, Forbes estimated his net worth at $3.5 billion, making him the richest athlete in history. And what's he doing now? Executive producing documentaries, launching Tequila Bronze, playing pickup golf matches with Tom Brady, still holding grudges. He once said in an interview, "I never needed the media. I just needed the game." And even now, in his 60s, Jordan still gets more camera time at NBA events than most active players. Because deep down, fans still wonder, Could he do it again? He never won as an owner. But winning was never about the scoreboard. For Jordan, it was about never letting go. One final segment left. What it all means, the legend, the darkness, and why no one will ever be like Mike. LeBron has the longevity. Kareem has the numbers. Kobe had the Mamba edge. But ask anyone who lived it, and they'll tell you, there's still only one Jordan. Jordan's resume is a wall of gold. 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, 5 league MVPs, 10 scoring titles, Defensive Player of the Year, 14 All-Star appearances, 10 All-NBA first teams, 9 All-Defensive first teams, 2 Olympic golds, and 0 finals losses. He didn't just win, he dominated. And every time a moment got bigger, Jordan rose with it. He never folded, never deferred, never got scared of the stage. But here's the thing. The stats aren't the story. Jordan's true legacy isn't in numbers. It's in fear. He's the only player in NBA history who made grown men in other uniforms admit, before tip-off, that they were probably going to lose. Michael Jordan's greatest weapon was his mind. He created slights where none existed. He trained harder than anyone in the room because he needed to win. He saw every play 2 steps ahead. He practiced like it was Game 7, and he believed, with no irony, that he was better than everyone. And that belief, it was contagious. His teammates went harder. His opponents got nervous. Even his rivals, guys like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, said things like, "He's God disguised as Michael Jordan." Larry Bird, "There's Michael Jordan, and then there's the rest of us." Magic Johnson, "Jordan made greatness look normal, and that warped the world." Now, every rising player, from Kobe to LeBron to Luka, chases a standard that Jordan invented. But that greatness came at a cost. MJ wasn't lovable. He wasn't cuddly. He was often cruel, controlling, and cold. He punched teammates in practice. He iced out rookies. He held lifelong grudges. He demanded everything. Steve Kerr once said, he didn't care if you liked him. He only cared if you worked like him. Jordan didn't want friends. He wanted killers. And if you weren't built like that, he'd break you. But that's what separated him. He didn't just compete. He required excellence from everyone around him. And in the end, it worked. Jordan changed more than just the game. He changed culture, business, fashion, marketing, what it meant to be an athlete. Before Jordan, athletes were pitchmen. After Jordan, athletes were brands. Air Jordans still outsell every other basketball shoe. Gatorade's Be Like Mike campaign remains the most iconic sports ad ever. He made the NBA a global product and paved the way for the LeBrons and Stephs and Kobes of the world. And when The Last Dance dropped in 2020, in the middle of a global pandemic, it didn't just break Netflix. It reignited the Jordan fire for a new generation. Everyone, young and old, watched that doc and said the same thing. Damn, he really was built different. So what is Jordan's lore? It's not just the championships, or the shoes, or the shots. It's the myth of a man who refused to lose, who demanded perfection, crushed anyone in his way, and made greatness look effortless while sacrificing joy to achieve it. It's the knowledge that somewhere, right now, there's a 60-year-old man in Florida smoking a cigar on a golf course, watching ESPN highlights, and still thinking, I could give these kids 20 points. Easy. He was the icon, the assassin, the silhouette, the moment. He was, and still is, Jordan. Thanks for sticking around for 1 full hour of Michael Jordan lore. If you made it to the end, you're one of the real ones. Hit that like button if you learned anything new, and drop your favorite MJ moment in the comments. Subscribe for more deep dives like this. And, as always, be like Mike.